A good D&D campaign must have a beginning, a middle, and most importantly, an end. Some college professors call the formula the hero's journey, or the journey for the elixir. Rising action, climax, falling action, it's a great guideline for telling your best stuff. Over time, I learned about Shakespeare's plots, the elixir bit, and learned the value of not making my games into endless sandboxes. For what is a story without 3 acts and a satisfying end? They make for some amazing D&D stories. Hello and welcome to another D&D Stories. I am your host, TheWriter, and this is the show where I sit here and regale you with all the interesting stories and remember when something cool happened playing tabletop games. Now, we return once more for a new campaign. This one is called Kobold Mountains. And if you don't know what kobolds are, they're pretty much the best monster ever. They're the heirs to dragons. They're these little lizard people. They're constantly at war with the goblins. They're not real smart. They're not real strong. But they're funny. They're scaly. They've got their own tribal society. I love kobolds. I think they're great. They make good mascots. They make good, small type creatures for your adventurers to cut their teeth on. And I wanted to base a campaign entirely around them. So, while I was going to Western Kentucky University, sitting in the Gamers Guild, I threw this campaign, Kobold Mountains. So, I've got this big page of notes here, so pardon me if I pause to check my notes now and then, because this was a very long campaign, and a lot of stuff happened, and we're doing it like chunk by chunk here, so this will be more than one video of a storytelling. Now, we started out with 3 players, a ranger, a knight, and a cleric. So we've got a nice spread of abilities, and we went for a 4th player later, but we started with 3. So we begin our adventure with our heroes before a middle-aged nobleman named Lord Tiberius Tygar. And Lord Tiberius is very interesting, very unusual, because he is a man with the head of a tiger. He's not a Rakshasa or whatever the tiger people are in the player's handbook. He's closer to like an Egyptian god or something. He's got the body of a man and the head of a tiger, and he is talking to them saying that his son has been kidnapped by kobolds, that his son Bino was out camping in the backyard, and somebody jumped the wall of Chateau Tygar, and the kobolds dragged him away up into the mountains. And they go, What is Lord Tygar's deal? What's with the animal head that he's got going on? It says, well, I used to be an adventurer like you, and it was my job to protect a very powerful woman who came from another world, and I took an arrow to the chest in her place, and I was dying, and it was within the powers of her magic to save me, but only at great sacrifice. So she went basically to like a black market or something and came home with an exotic animal to combine my life force with. And the one she found was like the biggest, strongest one she could get, an orange and black tiger. And the aftermath of the ritual that saved my life transformed my face and head into that of a tiger. And I am still a man on the inside. It's it's what you do that defines you. But yes, and you can probably guess who that is. Because we only know of one powerful spellcaster that was hopping between worlds at the time. Yes, exactly. And he goes, well, Lord Tygar, the man with the head of a tiger, that's kind of ironic. you were her protector, yes? And he goes, yes, and I did my job very well, and eventually we married and became husband and wife, and she bore me a son. She is no longer with us, unfortunately. And, his head kind of falls. But, I married into this family. My son is heir to this empire, and he gestures around because it is like Chateau Tygar. It's a big castle, or a big house, mansion with lots of servants, lots of, magical defenses, and, they're in charge of X number of caravans that produce magical items and special herbs and things. They've got a lot of money flying around for the Tygar family name. However, Lord Tygar has no power over this empire once his son comes of age because, again, he married into the family, but his son, is his mother's son. So he gets everything once he turns 18. So if he's dead, eaten by kobolds or whatever, it's not going to be good for Lord Tygar. So he needs them to go rescue his son. And Lord Tygar, he used to be an adventurer like us. Why doesn't he just go? Kobolds are really wimpy. And they go, well, I would, but now my head and face are bright orange and they would see me coming. So I leave it to, I'll bet, less powerful and less experienced, but more tactful adventurers such as yourselves. And, they introduce themselves, the ranger, the knight, the cleric, and they go, okay, we'll go get your son back. Don't worry, Lord Tygar. And, he promises them X amount of money, X amount of XPs, and, a pick of this big group of magic items. They can just, have one when they get back. And so it's more than fair for the stuff they're doing. And they are starting at level 1, so kobolds are in sheer numbers, can be more than enough challenge, so they're going to have to be careful. So they set out away from Chateau Tygar and head into the hills where they find a cave, and they start, looking for tracks. Our ranger is a brand new player, pretty much, but she's got the tracking down. She's got the, I am the woods woman that will show you the way, and, don't eat that, and, we can hunt for deer here. She's very into it, so it's really good. And they get led up to a cave. And they go, how many sets of tracks are there? It's hard to tell. They go in like profile, like sand people. They walk single file to hide their numbers. And they go, oh, okay. So, when kobolds are played correctly, they can be very deadly, especially in good numbers, or especially if they are defending a location. So, caves, ruined forts, houses, any kind of structure. If kobolds have plenty of time to prepare, it doesn't matter if they're like a challenge rating of 1/2 or whatever it happens to be. They'll kick your ass with trips and traps and alchemist fire and all kinds of stuff. Before you can ever get close enough to grab the little fuckers by the neck, two-thirds of your health will already be gone. So they've got to be very careful going into this cave. And the cave is, what you would expect. A dugout, sort of. They've burrowed every which way because kobold are subterranean. They have great big eyes with big pupils, so they can see really well in the dark or when low light. And they're excellent miners and excellent tunnel diggers. And, they have to squat a little bit because not all the rooms have a high enough ceiling for them because they're, 3 feet tall. They're not gonna be accommodating for 6 or 7 foot, tall 2-legs that come to chase after them. So there's a couple of kobold diggers here. There's a kobold miner there. All of them have like short swords on their hips. Some of them have these little stone icons with kobolds on them. And it's like, I wonder what that is. Oh, we'll save them for later. And they fight their way past quite a few kobolds. Like, here's a cavern with 5 kobold. Here's another cavern with some spike traps and, a couple of kobold that are shooting at you from behind barrels. And, it's a small dungeon for level 1 adventurers that's just all kobold. And again, a defensible location, so they do actually have to stop and rest at one point to pass out the healing spells and put some bandages on just from sheer numbers and sheer number of traps that they keep running over. So by the time they get to the back of this cave, they've probably killed like over a dozen kobold, and their health is still at max because, again, we've got a devoted healing cleric, and they've got potions from starting their characters. This is basically, baby's first dungeon, and they're doing pretty well. By and large, especially for like an enclosed area like this. It's not like a traditional dungeon. Like I said, they have to squat down, they have to lean around corners, they have to check, there's straw on the ground. We have to check the straw for bear traps and stuff like that. And they get up to this last chamber, and they find that there's like 5 or 6 kobold in here, and there's a dais with a platform, and there's the body of this little boy laying under a magical barrier, and they've got a cauldron boiling over with this green frothing sludge, and they're chanting and drawing runes on the floor, and they're doing some kind of ritual to suck the life force out of this little boy. And there's, like I said, 3 or 4 like regular kobold, and there's like a kobold shaman who's standing up on like a stool because the table's too high, and he's like chanting words and like shaking a stick over this little boy, and they're channeling like his essence into whatever it is that they're brewing in this cauldron. And they go, "There he is, let's get him!" And the knight charges straight in. His name was Sir Landon. Sir Landon charges straight in with the cleric, and the ranger is like, "I'm going to bull rush straight into the guy that's drawing runes." And our ranger's like, "I'm going to shoot at the shaman cleric so he can't finish his spell." They bowl these guys over straight away. Like, 6 was like an even challenge because, kobolds count as 1/2 of a level. So 6 of them versus 3 of us would have been a roughly even fight. So there could have been a death just by sheer numbers. But they bowl these guys over because they're in the middle of their ritual, and they kick the cauldron over, and they like, what did they do? Sir Landon actually like picked up the shaman and like pitched him into the cauldron as the goop was going everywhere, and he like dissolved into the goo, and oh no. And like all his clothes and all of his like war paints and his shaman stick got dissolved with him. And all the runes start glowing at odd intervals instead of all together, and they kill all the other kobolds so that the magic barrier will go down. But it remains, and they hear this voice coming from inside the cauldron. And it goes, "Too soon, you have summoned me too soon." And they see this tiny set of green, like wickedly curved claws on the edges of the cauldron, just like peeking out. And this tiny little like green wormling dragon comes out of this cauldron, like dripping like a fetus and covered with like gunk and ash from like the sacrifice to be thrown in the cauldron was clearly supposed to be the little boy once the ritual was done, but they threw a kobold in there and the spell went haywire. So either he was malformed or not strong enough or too small or something, because he was tiny when he came out and he was pissed. So of course he jumps onto Sir Landon's face like an angry little squirrel monster. Ah! So if you've ever fought a wormling dragon, you know how small they are and you know how tough they are. So, three level 1 adventurers versus a wormling is actually a pretty tough fight. I mean, I think they've got like 18 or 20 hit points or something like that. Quite a bit for a level 1 fight. But again, there are 3 of them and 1 of him, so they just kind of surround him and kick him to death because he's so much smaller than they are. But they take the carcass after like a hard fight. Like, he's too young for a breath weapon, but his claws and his teeth really hurt. but they do kill him. And the ranger takes the carcass like, geez, he's so small, I might be able to make like a pair of panties or something out of his scales. And I was like, panties of the green worm, sure, why not? And she stuffs its body into this bag, so like later she can like pull the scales and the teeth and the claws and all that good stuff, because dragon parts are worth a ton of money no matter what shop you go to. So she figures, later when she's got time, she can like harvest all the stuff off of this body. And they go, and of course by then the barrier is down, so they can grab Beano and make a run for it before any other kobolds show up, because judging by all the tracks in the dirt and the straw that they were throwing over stuff, a lot of traffic was going through this cave, and they needed to leave before somebody came along to cause them more trouble, especially now. One of them is like holding Beano, and Beano's like 12, maybe 13. He's right at that age where he's like going to be a man soon in medieval era terms. But he's still a kid. So they've got, the ranger like picks him up and has him like over her shoulder practically, and like has a short sword just in case. And they run out of the cave. It's like, we've got to get back to Lord Tygar. And, we've got the green dragon. We've got the money that the kobolds were carrying. And they run all the way back. They double time. It's like, given the sheer amount of tracks that were inside the cave, hiding their numbers outside, yeah, but not so much inside. So they were either trying to make a bigger cave network or something, right there on the edge of the hills, on the edge of the mountains. So they book it before anybody else shows up. And on their way back, they run into more kobold, and they're like, oh, damn. But there's something different about these guys. They run into them, like, right on the road, which is unusual for kobold, because in bright light, they become, like, dazzled, and they take minuses. But there's a leader among them that I named Maelstrom, and that's a reference to Unforgotten Realms. If you ever need a D&D cartoon to watch, Unforgotten Realms is a great show. It's got like 50 episodes now, jeez. But I handpicked Maelstrom from Unforgotten Realms and threw him into my campaign, basically. He's got, an eye patch and good leather armor and 2 magic rings and a big, like, sword, by kobold standards, a nice sword on him. And he's got a big, like, bag full of God knows what that he could throw at you. He's like, a geared out kobold is very unusual, so they're a little wary. They've got Beano, there's 2 people with their hands free, and there's like 7 kobold in the road, with one of them being this decked out guy they've never seen before. And he goes, you're trespassing in Kobold Mountains, kobold. He's got like a big thick accent. And he goes, we were just leaving, you don't have to tell us twice. The beams of sunlight are coming down between the 2 groups. Like, here's the aggro line, pretty much. And the 5 or 6 other kobold are like sharpening their knives, standing there, just waiting for the boss to give the word. It's like, we are going on a cleansing campaign. Any who are not kobold or animals will be slain or thrown out of the mountains on their faces. And it's like, I am Maelstrom. I lead these kobold. And you will get out of this place, or we'll just have to fucking kill you. And then he sees Beano, the little boy, and he's like, that's mine, put him down. He's like, are you the one that kidnapped Beano? And he goes, that's none of your damn business. And he's like, pulls his sword and pulls out like another small dagger, like he dual wields. Oh shit. And he's like, get them. And our ranger's like, I put Beano down like as quick as I can, and pull my other short sword. So a battle takes place in the middle of the road, and Maelstrom does not take damage like anybody else does. Like, he's either wearing magic armor or a deflection amulet or something weird. Like, he's like the storyline boss you're not supposed to beat yet. But at the same time, he is healing the kobold that are around him. He's got like a big like gem the size of his fist. So anytime Sir Landon like shield checks one of these little bastards to one side and they fall and die because they've only got like 4 hit points, Maelstrom just like waves the gem a little bit and that kobold gets up and keeps fighting. And I'm like, God damn, okay. We've got to grab Beano and basically make a run for it, because if he's just going to resurrect them over and over and we can't damage him, this fight will keep going until we die. So I think it was the cleric that time picks up the child, and like has him like over his shoulder, and is like, we're going to like bull rush through them because there's no way Kobold can run as fast as we can. So we can make it down the side of the hills. And yes, they get chased with spear and arrow, and they do take some damage on their way back, but they make it down the hills back towards town, and the kobold do not follow outside of the canopy because, again, they've got great big eyes with great big pupils, and if they stand in like direct sunlight, they're going to be blind. So even Maelstrom dares not chase them out in the bright of day. So they make it back to town, back to Chateau Tygar, and they deliver Beano to Lord Tygar. He's like, "Oh, my son, yes, here are all the rewards I promised you. Please stay in my home as long as you want to before you move on to your next assignment or whatever it happens to be. My most precious son," and all the servants are running around to make his bed, change his clothes. Get this kid a bath, feed him. He's just kind of out of it because he was probably drugged or cudgeled over the head for this ritual. And they check him for wounds. They check him for insect bites and poisons and stuff. And they notice, the kid's kind of got like the cat boy thing going on because his father is a tiger man and his mother was Natishka, who was a half demon. Tiefling woman, so he's got a weird set of genes in him. So he's got like the cat ears on top of his head, he's got like the peach fuzz over his face, the little pointed nose. He's very cute for like a little kid. He's very cute. He's got the black pads on his fingertips and stuff like that. He's basically like an anthro character, I guess would be the closest thing. Like not quite Disney's Robin Hood, but like you can see the peach fuzz all over him here and there in like bright sunlight. So he's like a cat boy basically. And Beano, I have no idea how 12 and 13-year-old children act. So Beano was like a toss-up in terms of personality for a while. Once they are of course invited to a great dinner, and Lord Tygar's already got servants in the backyard putting spikes on the top of his wall and setting up like magical sentries and things like that to make sure more kobold don't come into Chateau Tygar and steal his son again. And he invites them to this great dinner once Beano is like awake and alert again. And Beano's got the complete hero worship thing going on. Like this kid has just met Batman or Superman. And he's like, "You guys saved me? Wow. I'm going to find my wooden soldiers and paint them to look just like you guys." And so he's got like a little paint set and like little wooden soldiers at the dinner table. "Beano, I told you not to play with your soldiers at the table." And he's like, "Oh," and he goes and he sits on the floor instead while they're at dinner, painting them to look like our heroes. And they go, "How old is Beano again?" And I go, 12 or 13. And he goes, "He's really immature for a 12 or 13-year-old. And I go, "I don't know how children act. Do you?" So there was some disparity between how mature he was probably supposed to be and how mature he actually was. But he was, a pampered little lordling, so who knows? Maybe he still liked his action figures. But they stay and they get the money they were promised, and they got to pick, here's 20 magic items. Each of you can pick one from my empire of magic item shops and rare herbs and stuff. And our ranger takes the time to sit and like in the backyard where it's clean, where it's not as clean, and like pulls scales from the dragon's body and like harvests the little horn and gets as many teeth as she can and stuff like that. And she burns the body in case Maelstrom should come along and bring it back to life. God, it would be pissed. But she gets like a big sack of scales and a big bunch of teeth, and she's gonna like save these for later, because like if we kill more exotic monsters, maybe I can make like a necklace or something out of teeth and scales, or like a bra of acid resist. It was a very small dragon, so she wasn't gonna make like a chest piece out of this scales. So she kept teasing us like, oh, I'm gonna make, panties of the green dragon. That's gonna be sexy. It'll give me 5 acid resistance. And stuff like that. So she burns the carcass and keeps all the things that she could carve off, which, yeah, when you kill a dragon, it's a great idea, because dragon anything is worth a lot of money. And they go shopping with their money, and they come back to Chateau Tiger for a while. And let's see, I'm checking my notes, sorry. They find out that the next town over, which is situated squarely in the mountain range, Logginton, has been under attack by kobolds these past few months. Just like an almost constant barrage. And it's a logging town, which is why it's called Logginton. So their militia is being stretched to the breaking point. And they go, wow, man, okay. We should probably go and see what's up. If that Maelstrom character has anything to do with this, then those normal people are not going to stand a chance. And we've leveled up to level 2. We should probably go over there and stick our noses in those kobolds' business. And they go, okay. So once we're sure that Beano and Lord Tygar are like situated and things like that, we prepare to head out to Logginton. And I go, well, Lord Tygar gives Landon, the knight, a tabard of House Tygar. And they go, a tabard, really? And I go, yeah, it's bright orange with a black paw print on it. And they go, yeah, of course it is. And it goes, that'll give you like a +3 to diplomacy, so long as you're doing something like lawful good, and knights have a lot of rules about being upright, about not flanking, not striking a helpless opponent, stuff like that. And the guy playing Sir Landon was always like a rogue before, so this was really weird to see him acting like cool and upright, as opposed to being a backstabbing little bastard that he always was. But Lord Tygar gives him this tabard and names them all knight errants. Basically, like, you are now a member of my house. Should trouble arise, you may, use my name and authority for minor things, like, in the name of House Tygar, blah, 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 open the store, or whatever it happens to be. Don't run around saying I sent you to do things, because I'm not. But knight errants. So Sir Landon is already a knight, but because of that, he gets the tabard and a little bit of authority. Not unlike I don't want to say a police officer, but like a town guard. People would stop brawling if they saw him coming down the street or something like that. So they go, wow, thanks. If we ever see you again, he goes, if you ever see me again, you're more than welcome in my home. And he goes, good luck on your trip to Logginton. And, Beano, having spent time with the kobolds and eaten all their bad food, is awake and lucid, but getting kind of sick. So he's already got, like, nurses and stuff running around, helping him with other stuff like that. And he goes, well, I must tend to my son. Good luck, all of you. And Lord Tiberius sees them to the edge of his chateau, I guess, and like closes the gate. Good luck, heroes. May our paths cross again. And they go, okay, we set out for Logginton. And I bring out the little map, and it's It's not like Goddess Wheel, where like every day of travel they have to roll and see if they get attacked, but they did run into some trouble between Logginton and like the starting town, because as they were traveling, they were like, gosh, we should probably stay off the road. I mean, if the kobold are trying to secure this entire mountain range, I bet they're going to be watching the road. And, we've already killed enough of them, and they know that we grabbed Beano back, so they're going to be looking for us. We should probably, Ranger, can you guide us through the thicket instead of along the road where it'll be safer? And they go, yeah. She goes, yeah, we'll have to watch out for wild animals and things like that a little more, but the kobold, the organized attackers, will hopefully not see us nor track us. So, we're using more of the, roll survival, roll knowledge nature, you find berries, you find a rabbit, you find, a deer, and they're getting all this food and different commodities, and it's like, oh, well, if you don't want to leave tracks, you better, walk on logs and walk on stones and things like that. You can't leave boot prints that are 1.5 inches deep by walking through mud and all this stuff. And so they're very careful because, when there's half a dozen kobolds, there's 600 more waiting to waiting to take their place. And if Maelstrom's words are true and they are like consolidating power in this mountain range, then they don't want to be noticed. So they travel further on and they run into, of all things, a Displacer beast. And they look at each other and they go, a Displacer beast? And I was like, yes, imagine a jaguar with like spiky tentacles sticking out of its back, and it fades in and out of existence like a ghost. It's like you can't hit it when it's fading out of existence, and it's fast like a lightning bolt. It's 3 times faster than you can run. And it's just snarling and snapping at you. It's like it's this random magical creature in this giant range of mountains. You guys rolled a 1 when you were traveling or something like that. This is bad. And they go, oh God, okay, roll initiative. So, of course, the Displacer beast has a lot higher initiative, but Landon the Knight charges in because, he's the tank, that's his job. And our ranger goes off to one side to start popping shots. They're level 2. They've got full health and new potions and stuff like that, but I think Displacer beasts are a challenge rating of 3 or somewhere around there, so it's not going to be an easy fight. So they fight this thing, and it's like spiky tentacles are slapping Landon around, and he's doing his best to tank, but it's a level 2 versus a level 3, so the gap in power is there. And, the ranger has a hard time shooting because, if you're that early in the levels and you shoot into melee, then you take a -4 to your shot, so it's very hard to hit anything. And our cleric is kind of hanging back, do I get into melee with it? It'll bite my face off. I've got this mace, but I'm meant to be a healer, and he's, arguing with himself for a while. And Sir Landon gets knocked on his ass. And the Displacer beast turns towards the cleric and jumps onto his face with a full-on claws and teeth and tentacles all at the same time, and wraps up his neck and just squeezes the blood out of him, just all the claws, all the teeth, all the little spikes on the tentacles. You are covered with you're bleeding out. You've got bleeding wounds all over your face and chest. And I go, you take this much damage. And he goes, I've only got that much damage. And I go, really? It hit you for your entire health pool all at once? And I go, yeah. He goes, yeah. And I go, roll to not die. If you go from 16 to 0, then, that's catastrophic damage. You might die. And thank God he makes the save, so he didn't just get one-shotted by this random beast. And it's well, the Displacer beast is busy with, mauling the cleric. I shoot it in the ass, and the ranger shoots this beast in the butt right as it's finishing off the cleric. Landon is down, 0 health, unconscious. The cleric is down, 0 health, unconscious. And the ranger, the new girl, who barely knows D&D 3.5 as it is like, she's the last one standing between her and this mutant jaguar from another dimension. And she's like, and she flips her character sheet. She's, last one standing. I throw caltrops. And she throws the caltrops down, which are basically like, attacks. If you stand on them, it really hurts. And the Displacer Beast, when it steps on caltrops, it counts as an attack, at least for me at the time. That may not be true, but it counts as an attack when it has the potential to take damage. So it fades out of existence, and it keeps walking, and then it fades back into existence. So the caltrops are all the way up inside its feet, and it instantly just, gouges this thing for, the maximum damage that caltrops can do, and it starts bleeding because there are shards of metal inside its feet, and it's leaving bloody footprints. And our ranger's like, I back up so he has to keep walking and leaving bloody footprints everywhere. And so the Displacer Beast starts running at her, and she turns tail and runs. And she, dodges behind a log just as it's about to jump on her freaking head and rip her freaking scalp off. And all the while, it is bleeding out. It's taking, successive bleeding damage. And, animals can't roll to, stabilize themselves because that's medical knowledge. And she literally, ran. She ran and ran and ran as much as she could. And she took, a tentacle strike in the back, or she got, teeth in her ass a couple of times. But she basically kited it to death. It bled out through its feet, and then she turned around and bashed it with a cudgel or something, and it fell over dead. And I was like, wow, that was really impressive. And she got, the round of applause from everybody at the table. She kited this boss thing to death. It's like, you've got, a Displacer Beast's carcass, I guess. And she goes, ooh, I go for the teeth and the claws. And Sir Landon's like, still dead over here. And she goes, oh yeah. I give my party members 1 potion each. And then I go over and try to get the teeth and the claws. It's like, well, I guess we're making camp here. Can we eat it? No, you can't eat it. Why not? Well, if you slice it up and then it fades out of existence, it's dead, isn't it? But yeah, but if it fades out of existence, you're just going to be hungry again. Shit. So the ranger skins this thing because it's furry. She skins it, and she has a Displacer Beast's fur. And I go, if you take that to a tailor or something, you can make that into a cloak. And she goes, a Displacer Beast cloak? And I go, yeah. And I don't remember what those do. I think they roll on a percentile to make your enemies miss, or it keeps you from getting critted a certain amount of time or something like that. But it does what the Displacer Beast does for you. So it was a really great item to have. So harvesting all the things from these monsters is doing her a lot of good. She's like, wow, I'm going to have to go see a leather worker, and I'm going to have to go see a tailor. I hope there's somebody in Logginton that can turn all this stuff into magic items for me. And of course, now she's got another mouth full of monster teeth that she can throw in with all the dragon teeth. It's like, that's going to turn into a necklace at some point. We'll figure out what it is. But she's basically making her own magic items anytime they kill something. And they go, God, okay, we're going to make camp and rest here because that beast kicked the crap out of us. And I go, yeah, okay. So you make camp for the night. They eat. They lick their wounds. They bandage themselves. They do all the things you would regularly do. And they post the ranger for the first shift of the watch, so they don't all go to sleep and get jumped in the dead of night. They go, yeah, don't worry. If something huge comes out of the foliage, we'll just let you handle that too. So they go forward again the next day, and I go, okay, make your another fate check. You're a third of the way and then 2/3 of the way, and then the next check you'll just be there. So I gave them 2 chances to get attacked or to have something happen. They rolled really low a second time. And I go, my God, you guys suck at traveling. And they go, what do you mean? And I go, roll your survival. 3. Damn it. You stumble across an ogre. And I go, an ogre? That's even worse. And, ogres are huge. Ogres, oh, no. Not at level 2, they're not. So this thing chases them across the damn mountain range, and it doesn't stop. It's got like tunnel vision right on them. It's got the great big club. The the ranger's like stopping to turn and like pop an arrow, pop an arrow, and it chases them forever. And they run and they run and they run, and it doesn't give up. And Sir Lana's like, I could stop and try to fight it. And so they stop and they cross swords with it or cross like club and sword with it for a while, but it does way too much damage for level 2 heroes. So after a brief stint at fighting, they run some more, and they make it all the way to Logginton. And they see like the great big like wooden fort walls that you might see. Like the border of the town is like logs that have been sharpened to a point at the top. They're like, there's people coming, open the gate. It's like, there's an ogre chasing us, close the gate. It's like, but we need to get in, open the gate a little bit. So they let the 3 heroes squeeze inside and then close the gate just as the ogre is getting there and like bashes on the gate. And then a bunch of guys with like bows and arrows get up on top of the walkway of the wall and just like start shooting down at this thing, and it runs because it can't reach them and it can't get through the wall either. And they go, my God, you people have bad luck, and they're beat all to hell. Landon's covered with bruises. They've got lacerations from running through plants that they not ought to have. And they get to this place, they're panting, sweaty, dirty, busted up by this freaking ogre. And they go, please, travelers, come to the healers, the apothecary. They've got some beds there. You can rest and recover. And these 3 people come in from the forest. They're like, wow, what'd you do to that ogre? I was like, I think we snuck up on it or something on accident. On accident, yeah. Just bad luck. So this place is like a small fort town. It's got a couple of dozen houses. It's got a great big sawmill. It's it's got all the regular commodities, a smithy, a small convenience store, an apothecary, there's a mayor and stuff like that. It's less than 1,000 people, but the entire place is surrounded by like the wooden fort walling, so it's fairly secure for a town out in the middle of nowhere. That, and they've been getting attacked by kobolds. I mean, one asshole with a torch could probably take the whole town down, but, if the kobold wanted to keep it as a fort, they wouldn't just light it on fire. So there's enough people, and word spreads quickly that these 3 people came in from the west to Logginton, and the apothecary comes in and like sees to them, takes their money for like potions and beds and stuff, and like sees to their wounds, and our cleric got some stitches on his shoulder and different things like that. They got busted up pretty bad by this ogre. It's like, just eat some food and go to sleep, because you really shouldn't be going anywhere anytime soon. And they go, okay. So they just kind of try to take it easy. Like, they took a lot of damage, and then they traveled a little, and then they took a bunch more damage. So they haven't actually had time to rest and recover like all the hit points and all the spells yet. They've been traveling pretty hard, staying off the road and yet still running into all manner of bad things. It's like, God, we should have just used the road and fought the kobold, because Displacer beasts and ogres are way beyond us. At least with kobold, we'd stand a chance. They're like, shut up, cleric. But yeah, they saw like out of like the table of monsters that I pulled for the Kobold Mountains. It was like they caught like the worst 2 or 3 things that they possibly could have on their way to Logginton. And I was like, well, at least you're safe inside the walls of Logginton. You know, the kobold are not going to jump on your heads, straight away. And they go, okay, gosh, we can actually, get some rest here. And I just kind of roll it because, the kobold have been attacking Logginton over and over and over lately, straining their militia, which was why they were there. And I go, there's an attack in the dead of night. Kobold are rushing about Logginton, having thrown grappling hooks and just jumped the wall to start causing trouble and killing anybody that's standing out in the streets. And they go, God, it's like 3 a.m. And I go, you're still resting in your recovery beds. And suddenly the apothecary lady busts in with these straps of leather in her hands. And she goes, don't worry, I'll keep you safe. And she pulls these leather straps around your necks like collars. And just as she's securing the last one, a kobold busts in through the door behind her and just like impales her straight through the chest. You see the tip of a spear sprout from between her breasts, and she falls over dead. Grab the medicine. Grab all the potions you can find. Kobold just like flood into the room. Grab all the potions you can find. The herbs too. Make sure you get the pots. We're going to grow our own herbs. Yeah. We'll find a hillside somewhere and just like grow herbs. And hey, grab all the potions. Oh, that's a potion of bull strength. Make sure we take that back. They just start raiding the place. And they turn and they look at the heroes that are still laying, like, recovering sick and beaten in bed. And they go, they had prisoners! And our heroes look down at themselves, and they are no longer human or elven. They are kobold. And they go, what happened? What happened to us? And they go, it must be the collars. They must see what they want to see, or something like that. And I go, yes. The apothecary came and gave you something called the Collars of Tolerance. So whoever looks at you will see you as a member of their own race. So humans will see you as humans, dwarves will see you as dwarves, and kobold will see you as kobolds. So you were laying in bed with a collar on, looking all beaten up and busted up, surrounded by all these strange potions and things. They think that you're prisoners. And, the kobold, like, rush up and, like, grab our heroes, and apparently it changes their weight, too, but shut up. They grab our adventurers and like, put them over their shoulders, like, we found some survivors! We've got to get out of here. We got to get them to safety. Kobold! Grab those potions. We'll need those later. And just like, don't worry, little lady. And they grab up the ranger and, like, throw her, like, over their shoulder, like, smack her on the ass. I'll save you. And they run out into the forest. And they take off with our heroes. Like, we just got kidnapped and rescued. Napped. And I go, yeah, basically, as long as you wear those, you'll look like kobold to the kobold. And I go, it's basically a 5 cents glamour spell. Your height, weight, and looks and feel and touch and everything, you are, for all intents and purposes, a kobold right now. You can keep all your stats and all your everything else. You look like a native at this point. And they run over to one of these rocks and they push the rock aside, and there's a tunnel. And they pass you down to somebody who's waiting. And they go, veterans, here, take them. And we rescued them from that fort over there. And they can't tell the difference between a fort and a well fortified town, but whatever. They pass our 3 adventurers into these tunnels and they move the rock back. We'll come back when the raid's over. Kobold! And our heroes are rushed along through these tunnels being carried because, even though they look like kobold, they still look like they've been beat to hell. So they're rushed down these tunnels, and there's an occasional torch. They go this way, and then they go that way, and it's just this maze, this complete, like, clusterfuck of tunnels that goes deep down into the world. And they go, God, we had no idea. They're directly beneath our feet, probably up and down this entire mountain range. They've hollowed it out like Swiss cheese, and they can go wherever they want without being seen. And they go, why didn't they just dig up into the town? Well, then their tunnel system would have been exposed. But they had an exit or an entrance, not 300 yards outside of Logginton to pass off these prisoners. And they go, and they are like brought into like a main area, a cavernous area, where they are treated as a prison, not like returning prisoners of war. And I go, you guys are hailed as veterans, having survived the horrible things that happened to you in Logginton, Kobold. And you are given your very own kobold icons. And they go, oh, that's what the icons are. It's like if kobolds have like 4 hit points. So if you survive a battle, it's a big deal, and you get like a badge of honor, this little kobold icon, to show that you are a veteran kobold. It's like a status symbol. And they go, oh, we better not let them look into our bags then, because we've got like 16 of those at this point. So they're like dog tags, or whatever you want to call them, to say that you went into battle and got out alive with your 4 hit points intact. And it is an honor to receive a kobold veteran icon. And there's different levels of them. There's like stone and jade and lapis lazuli, and different like levels of carvings that you can receive based on how many battles you've been in. And there's like a ruby one, and there's one kobold has one that's like solid silver, and he's very old and venerated, and he's very wily. He never got caught by nobody, stuff like that. And they go, wow. This tribal society, it's like they're underground. It's completely dark except for a torch here and there. And it's like, you guys are honored at a great feast, having returned, and the raiders come back from Logginton with food supplies and potions and like a stray like steel helmet, and they laugh and they cheer and they play crude musical instruments, and you guys are just like part of the revelry for a while. And they see just the way this place is laid out. It's almost like being a refugee in like a Terminator movie. There's a shortage of blankets. There's a shortage of food and supplies. And every raid could be your last raid, but you have to go on a raid if you want food and things like that. It's just not being able to go outside during the day, or much at all, because of the humans and the other tall two-legs that think they own these mountains, those bastards and stuff like that. So we're seeing the other side of this conflict, that the kobold just want like a place to exist and not be harassed by adventurers like themselves, or any of the other tall two-legs that think they can start a town wherever they damn well please, on kobold land or on kobold property or mountains or whatever will you. And they learn that Maelstrom himself is going to lead another assault on Logginton tomorrow. And they go, oh shit. So it's going to be like tomorrow at dusk. They're going to freaking push for one final assault and try and rip Logginton to the ground, or at least like kill all the humans inside and take it over. And once they've got a defensible position, there's only one road that goes through the mountains. So if they get this fort, it's kind of over. Because once they've consolidated, they could hold it like a siege from any number of the regular farming people and logging people. And by the time any military force arrived, they could just run. And then when they leave, come straight back. So if Logginton falls, it's going to suck to be us, in other words. So they have to sneak out. They have to get away once they learn of this great battle to come. And so, there's labyrinthine, twisted, like I said, clusterfuck of tunnels that go in all directions. And, but our ranger, like I said, they kept all their skills and stats. Like, our ranger can use survival. And, this tunnel, arcs upwards, and it's got, tracks this deep, and there's this much traffic, so clearly this is the way we should go. And they pop out, like, a mile down the road from Logginton, and they have to book it. They still look like kobold, and they have to book it all the way back to Logginton, and they almost get shot in the face. They're like, oh yeah, we have to pull the collars off. They're like, it's us, don't shoot us in the face. You know, who are you? It's like, we were the guys that were here earlier. Open the gate. Did you bring an ogre this time? No, I don't believe you. Close the gate. It's like, there's an attack coming. Open the gate a little bit. So they squeeze back inside the gate. They open it just a little bit, just in case. And they close it behind them, and they go, Kobold are going to be here tomorrow at dusk. And just, there's no time. There's no time to call for, like, the military from the king. There's no time to run to the next town over and ask for help. We need to start fortifying. We need to start getting ready. We've got, like, 16 hours before they get here. And it's like, okay, we need to have, like, bow and arrow, you know, alchemist fire, you know, anything you can get, you know, reinforce the gates, you know, have, you know, men standing on the walkways so they don't just, like, throw freaking grappling hooks like they did last time and scale the walls. You know, Logginton is coming under siege tomorrow. This is it. And, you know, the leader of the Kobold Maelstrom is going to be coming as well. And, you know, he has the power to resurrect kobold that die in battle seemingly infinitely, and we haven't been able to harm him with our weapons. So the best we can hope to do is, like, knock him out or drop him down the well, or so they're trying to form up a plan for somebody that they basically can't harm, or at least not in any way they know how. And they go, oh God, okay, you know, they send all the women, you know, have the women start brewing up like boiling oil, and have the children start making arrows, you know, halt all the logging that's going on right now, shut down the sawmill, we're going to be reinforcing the gate, you know, kobold are coming, everybody get ready. They start ringing bells, and the militia starts forming up. They start putting, like, spikes and wiring on top of the fort walls, or on top of the town walls. But again, it's a fairly large, you know, like I said, it's a couple of dozen houses, so it's fairly large. They're not going to be able to defend every inch of the place, especially since kobold can tunnel, and some of them probably know magic. The entire place is made of wood, you know. If they want to get in, they're probably gonna. So times are harsh there at Logginton, and our heroes are like, God, we need to get some sleep. Like, how are we even going to do that? You know, the apothecary lady is dead. There's probably a sleep potion somewhere. And I go, yes, there is a sleeping potion at the apothecary. The three of you can split it, and it'll make you sleep for 8 hours while everybody else is doing their preparations. And I go, okay. And as they're making their way to the apothecary, they come by something that they didn't see before. It was a large suit of black armor. And they go, who is that? And we, you know, he could probably be of some help. You know, he's not just like some militia guy. And they wander up to this guy, and he's like 2-3 feet taller than them. Like, is he a giant? What is he doing there? And our ranger kind of like knocks on him a little bit. He's hollow inside. It's like you can hear like gears and hydraulics moving around. They go, he's a robot? And I go, he's something. He's empty inside, but something is helping him move around. And they go, hello? What is your name? And he doesn't say anything. And I said, well, he's kind of sitting there like leaning up against one of the houses, and he's surrounded by stray cats who like climb all over him and like sit on his shoulders. And he's got big giant hands, so he's got like 3 kittens in one hand and a grown cat in the other hand, and he's like moving them about just a little bit like he's weighing them both, and then he spills them all out on the ground. And they stop like a child, and they go, who is this? And they go, that's Guard. And they go, Guard? They go, yes, Guard. He wandered in from the mountains one day, and we couldn't really stop him. It was like, we tried hitting him with our axes and like setting him on fire and stuff, and he defends himself, but he doesn't really hurt anything. It's like he didn't try to bust down anybody's houses or take anything or anything like that. And it's like, well, nobody here is strong enough to make him leave, and he's not hurting anybody, so we really couldn't do anything about it. And they're like, what, he's your pet possessed armor? What is he supposed to be? And they go, we don't know. He's just guard. Anytime something attacks him, he returns in kind, and he always wins. But I've seen other kids climb on him. He's just like a neutral force who wandered in out of the mountains. And they were like, really? So they examined guard for a while, and they go, he's basically like a ghost armor or something like that. There's something possessing him, powering him, something. He's hollow inside, but apparently he's tough as nails because he kicks the crap out of anything that tries to hurt him. I was like, he's kind of like the Iron Giant. Like, he doesn't really have a personality. He doesn't talk a lot. He's sitting there. He's got like a cat in one hand, and he's tickling it under the chin with his other finger. Kitty. And they go, oh my God, he's adorable. Kitty. Well, maybe we can coax guard to help us with the siege. And they go, yeah, you're probably right. If kobolds start breaking in and like hurting people, or if they step on a cat or something, he'd probably rip the shit out of them. And they go, yeah, okay. We're going to have to give guard like a good view of what's going on. So they pick up some cats. And just imagine how hard that is, picking up a stray cat. You can't do it. But our ranger is quick enough, and she coaxes guard, this bizarre 9-foot armor, over to the well. And the well is well within sight of the front gate. And we go, okay, I'm going to give guard his kitty cat, and hopefully he will sit there. And I go, yes. Guard lumbers over when you take one of his cats, and you give it back to him, and he sits there in front of the well. So, should anybody break down the front gate, guard will notice right away because it's right in front of him. And they go, yes, we've got our secret weapon. Should the siege go really, really badly, guard will like wade into the fray and hopefully just like one punch man and like knock them like Team Rocket's blasting off again, just into the horizon. Like, does he have any weapons or anything? And they go, no, he's just really big. He punches things. It's amazing. And this kid wanders off to go help with other things. And they go, well, maybe this siege won't go so bad after all, but we'll have to wait and see. So they go to the apothecary and they grab the sleeping potion they were looking for, and they dilute it into water so they don't sleep for like 12 hours. But like a solid 8 is what they're going for, so they can rest and recover their hit points, recover their spells, have time to pray for spells in the morning, etc., etc. And they go, okay, the sun is going down. The kobold will be upon us at, any minute now. So that is kind of where I will leave off with today. So when we come back next time, we'll talk about the siege of Logginton, the giant metal armor guard, and Maelstrom and all his kobold minions fighting for the fate of Logginton. So I hope you enjoyed that story, and I will see you guys on the next D&D Stories. Keep gaming.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like button for me. If you want to keep up with channel updates, check me out on Facebook. And if you're feeling especially generous, be sure to visit my Patreon. Keep gaming!